Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. You know what that means. We're here together to talk through immigration headlines and your case questions. I am immigration attorney Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, here with you to help you decipher and understand what's important in the news as it relates to immigration for the week. And as a reminder, I'm based in Austin, Texas. My law firm is based in Austin, Texas. However, we take clients and cases all over the 50 United States because immigration law is federal and because we are a virtual law firm. We have 15 lawyers, actually many of whom are not in the state of Texas, or a handful of whom I should say, and our clients are all over the place. So let me know if you guys need a consultation for yourself or someone you love. Just the easiest way is to Google the firm and call us, or just send me a DM. And I've got my team working behind the scenes in the social media accounts, sending your messages to the appropriate people. It takes a village to do what we do. And our village is, don't hesitate to reach out. You are not bothering me. We are here for you. We have resources, safety planning packets, caregiver authorizations for parents. All the things that we talk about are important. Safety planning, know your rights materials. The Busting Fronteras, we're still going out and doing presentations in the community, providing support to the immigrant community. So all that is still available to you. Let us know if you need the help. With that being said, we got kind of a short show today, so I'll get straight to the headlines. Number one is the development of ICE glasses. So think of like those AI Ray-Ban glasses that they came out years ago. And at first everybody was like, this is really creepy. People were calling them glass holes. Do you remember that? People who would wear those glasses, like people who goes to a party and like turns on the recording and records everybody at the party. Like that's just kind of weird. Now they're more, common to see in like out and about in public. But this is like one of those moments when you contemplate the fact that ICE, or the Department of Homeland Security, is developing these glasses for purposes of like going into public protests and events to record people and capture their biometric data without their permission. Think about the you 5 years ago who would have been presented with this information. Like right now, you're like, oh yeah, people wear glasses out on the streets. We are talking about law enforcement officials without our consent on the streets capturing our biometric information. It is so creepy and such an overstep of our fundamental privacy rights that the Department of Homeland Security, this executive branch, is conducting mass surveillance and capturing our biometrics. That means your facial, it's like the facial recognition software. I mean, what would you do if you were walking down on the street and some cop just grabbed your finger and took your fingerprints? You'd be like, excuse me, you may not grab my hand and take my fingerprints without my permission. That's what they're doing with these glasses. That's how far it's fallen. So those are in development. And as we know, they're compiling all of the surveillance data that they're gathering from all of the different places that they're gathering it to create these records of each of us individually. And they are tracking our political opinions, our activities, our presence at certain places, our presence in certain chats and groups, and using that information to accuse people of being domestic terrorists because they might be in some group that's anti-ICE. Things like that are actually occurring. And, this is one of those like, what the hell do we do to stop this? I mean, it is occurring. So it's just stay aware, stay like surprised. So if you find yourself when I said, oh, ICE is developing glasses that they're going to go out in public, and if that didn't faze you, that should be a brick upside the head that like, oh my gosh, I have gotten to the point of acceptance where it doesn't even faze me that they're going to put on biometric surveillance glasses and go out in public. We've come too far. We have fallen too far, and we have got to stay civically engaged and make sure that these midterm elections are going to happen. It's all bad news today. I'm just giving you a heads up. Next note is regarding deaths of migrants in ICE custody. We have hit an all-time high within the last 2 decades at least 29 people so far this year have died in ICE custody. All of last year was 28 people, right? So we're in April. That shows the spike. That is because the numbers of people being detained are increasing and the detention conditions are decreasing. So when we massively expand these detention centers in temp camps like Camp East Montana, and then we put companies in charge of these places who are either long-time, privately run for-profit prison companies, or in some cases, like at Camp East Montana, they're new operators who don't even know what they're doing. But regardless of who they are cutting costs and maximizing profits. And what does that mean? Driving down the spendy stuff, right? Healthcare, food, schooling, air conditioning, heating, comfort, things like that. And so healthcare goes first. And if you scan the stories of the deaths, there are deaths that are like one that was ruled a homicide where guards are asphyxiating people. But the majority of these deaths are people who have medical issues that didn't get attended to. So maybe they had liver failure, maybe they had chest pains, maybe they had pregnancy complications, things like that. And the repeated storyline, I've read a lot of these stories, is the person is in pain, they're complaining, they're asking for medical care, and they are told ridiculous things by the medical staff like, get some rest and take a Tylenol. And we know that this is true because we've heard it so many times, way more often than not. It's a very rare thing to hear a story of someone who has a medical event, tells the staff at the facility, and then they're treated and cared for. That doesn't occur. What does occur is somebody has a medical event, tells the staff at the facility, and the staff ignores them. That's what happens. And that's why people are dying. It's really actually quite simple. And what's infuriating is to read these statements of DHS officials in response to these allegations in which they say, oh, people who are just, out for their own agenda are saying that this is happening, but it's not actually true. No, it's true. It's true. Migrants are being detained in unsafe conditions and they're not being provided adequate medical care. Oh, another thing they'll say that will make you just throw something at the wall is that, the people who are detained are getting better medical care in many cases than they've ever gotten in their entire life. Excuse me? First of all, how do you even know that? You don't know these people. You're making a racist assumption that because they're brown or they're from another country that they've never gotten good medical care. Get out of here with that. Also, number two, not a good argument. Not a good argument. If people are dying in your care, but that somehow is better than other care that they have had access to, I don't care. They don't have control over their own care when they are in your clutches. They don't get to decide if they get to leave and go to the doctor or go to the dentist for an abscess tooth or go to the ER for chest pains. They don't get to decide. You decide it for them. Therefore, you need to do right by people. So just what the hell is what I have to say about that. Next note, we all know ICE went on a hiring spree last year and they rushed the job and they hired a bunch of inadequate people. And there was some really good South Park episodes about this. If you want to, I don't know, make yourself feel a little bit better. It's the one where Chrissy Gnome's face is like melting throughout the episode. And like by the end of it, her face is like complete. Oh, she's also just shooting dogs all through the episode. But it's not funny because what they've done is rush the hiring of ICE officers, and now news outlets are digging into the backgrounds and they're obtaining information. And what do you know? A lot of these people should never have been hired. They, didn't have adequate training, didn't graduate from high school, never graduated from police academy, but I'm sure they have police academy on their resume. There are people who, have been fired for fraud. The one guy made up evidence against a woman to get her arrested for felony charge. And when the video came out, it turns out that he had been lying the whole time. That guy who had been fired for that got hired by ICE. And he might be the one that just got prosecuted for pointing the gun at people. I don't know if it's him or another guy. Other people, multiple bankruptcies. One guy jumped from police agency to police agency, but was only at the agencies that he was at for like less than 2 months. Obviously, there was a problem, right? And none of that was ever explored. And so what do you know? A bunch of these ICE agents are not fit for the job and bad guys. Big surprise. Next, let's talk about what's happening in Texas. We have had cities like Dallas and Houston and even Austin, the big cities, start to think about ways that they can protect the constitutional rights of their citizens, meaning not detaining people on administrative warrants, which are not due process warrants that have not gone before a judge. They're just paperwork that ICE creates. And it's not constitutional under the Fourth Amendment to detain somebody unlawfully like that. And the cities are aware of that. And so cities are doing things to pass ordinances or policies, or they're publishing policies that say, we're not going to detain people on ICE administrative warrants because that would be unconstitutional. And so now what's happened is Greg Abbott is bringing down the force of the state upon the cities who are doing the right thing and threatening to revoke public spending grants from the state to those cities. So for example, in Houston, it's a lot of money. It's $110 million that they're being threatened with revocation. And this isn't just for police, by the way, it's also for fire. So the state of Texas would take away over $100 million in funds to protect the citizens of Houston because you're mad that Houston isn't going to hold people on administrative warrants. What the hell? $30 million in Dallas. There's chatter about it also happening in Austin. So this is going to be something that we're going to need to be watching what's happening. And it's absolutely going to be something that's going to be handled during the legislative session that's coming up. Remember, the Texas Ledge is in session on odd years from January to June, unless there's special sessions. So we got one coming up. We got a legislative session coming up in January. Dan Patrick, by the way, and Greg Abbott have said that their number one priority is stopping Sharia law in the state of Texas. I know we all wake up worried about that. So absurd. These people are ridiculous. But maybe we will have midterm elections and maybe things will turn in the favor of those with brains. Okay, last point. Oh, here's an example of what I was talking about with poor medical care. Mother of 5 in immigration detention with all her kids, by the way, I will add. 10 months, this family, mom and 5 kids, have been held in Dilley, was finally taken to the ER after excruciating pain weeks after she was refused a CT scan for a lump in her chest, according to her attorney. The woman has been pleading for medical attention for the abnormal growth, which has caused severe pain since February 17th, according to a court document filed on Wednesday. So there you have it. And you wonder why people are dying in detention. It's because of stuff like that. So that's the news. I'm sorry, we're mad. We're mad after the news update this week. And I gotta have the questions, Kitty. The kitty doesn't want me to have the questions. Let's start getting to your questions. If I work and pay taxes, does that help my immigration case? It depends. Some cases, you guys have heard me say this before probably. In immigration, there's many ways to immigrate, to get legal status. But the general buckets are employment, family, humanitarian. Employment is the strictest. So if you've worked without permission, or you've been present in the United States without permission, you have restrictions on getting status through work that are kind of hard to overcome. Through family, you can have worked and been in the country without legal status, and there's waivers available for the most part. Through humanitarian cases like domestic violence victims, crime victims, trafficking victims, there's lots of waivers available. It generally doesn't impact you at all if you've worked without permission. So it depends on the case type. What I will say is that generally paying taxes is helpful if you have to prove good moral character for your case. So an example of that would be cancellation of removal, which is a defense to deportation that a lot of people need right now. So if you've been in this country for longer than 10 years and you have U.S. citizen kids who are born here and you don't have a criminal history and you've been picked up, your defense to deportation could be cancellation of removal. And one of the ways that you prove 10 years of good moral character in the country is by showing that you've been paying and filing your income taxes. So in that case, it would help. Definitely would help when you're applying for citizenship once you have your green card. You have to show you've been paying your taxes. So generally, I would say working and paying taxes is a good thing. I will add a note of caution, though, as we were talking about the surveillance state. One of the agencies that ICE has started to surveil or request data from is the IRS, which I think is really stupid of them, like real stupid of them, because as all the studies show, immigrants pay a lot of taxes into the IRS. And most of the immigrants I know and have known over the years are really worried about that. Like, what do I need to do things right? How do I stay ahead of this? How do I file my taxes? If I don't have a social security number, how do I get an individual taxpayer identification number? I want to do the right thing, and so I want to file my taxes. Well, unfortunately, and I've always been able to say, they don't, if you're undocumented and you're filing taxes, they're not going to go after you, because that would be really stupid, because they want to encourage people to pay taxes. Well, we all know the Trump administration doesn't do smart things. One of the not smart things that they've done is threaten to go after people who have filed taxes by accessing IRS data. So I will just add that note of caution about what happens when you pay taxes. Next question. Can I get a work permit while my case is in process? Generally, yes. Work permits generally come with cases when you're filing for a green card, or if you're filing for a U visa or a T visa, or an adjustment of status through family, or a VAWA case. Most of those cases come with a work permit that's supposed to cover you during the time that your big application is pending. So the work permit generally should come quicker, and you can get the work permit and the social security number and the driver's license while your bigger case is pending. And then there's some cases that just come with a work permit, like parole in place or DACA or some temporary protected status, some visas, things like that. They're only work permit cases. They're not permanent cases. So that's another way to get a work permit. Sometimes we get calls from people who are like, I want a work permit. What do I do? And what we're actually exploring is, are you eligible for legal status? And does a work permit come with that? We don't usually just explore whether a person can get a work permit, because generally work permits are temporary. Okay, here's a good one. What options do I have if my partner is a U.S. citizen, but I entered without a visa? Okay, so number one, you say partner. Are you married? If your spouse is a U.S. citizen, they can petition for you. It does require marriage. One note I will say is that in Texas, where I am, we have common law marriage or informal marriage. So you don't have to have like a ceremony. You don't even have to have a license. You can go and register a common law marriage, but it's not required that you have a formal wedding in Texas necessarily. But the process looks like this. If you entered without a visa and now let's say you're married to a U.S. citizen, the way that you do the adjustment of status is you enter legally, which you didn't, or you're a victim of violence in that marriage, which hopefully you're not, or somebody in your family petitioned for you before 2001, or your spouse has served in the military. Those are the ways that we can get you a green card in the country without having to leave. If none of those exceptions apply, then we do something called the consular process, where we file the family petition to prove that you're in a valid marriage. Then we file a waiver for your unlawful presence. That takes a couple of years. Then we file for you to go abroad and get your green card and come back. So it's a 3-step process during which time you're in the country for almost all of it, but you're not in legal status. One thing I will say is that a lot of people who have contemplated this process have decided not to initiate it because you don't want to not have legal status and wait 4 or 5 years. My suggestion would be to do it, to get started, because if you get picked up and, God forbid, deported, you won't have lost this time. Like if you start now and in 3 years you get deported, well, your case would have been moving along for 3 years and you'd be 3 years ahead. If you don't start now and you get deported in 3 years, it's going to take 3 years longer to be able to get back. That's why I say go ahead and start now if you know you want to be here with your spouse. And with that, I will wrap up the show. I'm going to give you guys your action item for the week. I like this one. In line with what's happening in Austin and Dallas and Houston about the revocation of funding, we don't normally call our city officials. Normally, we're talking about calling our legislators about our opinions on things. Let's call our city officials. Call your city councilman. Call your mayor. Tell them if they're standing up to ICE, you are proud of what they are doing, you appreciate what they're doing, and you stand behind them all the way. Let them know that they have our support so that they're not sticking their necks out there without us backing them. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to reach out to our city leaders if they are protecting us against ICE and tell them we're grateful for that. So thanks for being with me. I will see you guys on Thursday in Spanish with more bad news.